What's up guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first episode of my new segment called The Works of Stephen King Revisited. I'm excited to be talking today about 1991's Needful Things, one of my favourite books of all time. I'm going to go in depth about the book, and I'm going to be discussing the 1993 adaptation as well, which I've seen 12 times and I know it backwards, so here we go. There is a new shop in town, run by a stranger. Needful Things, the sign says, a name that causes some gossip and speculation among the good folks of Castle Rock, Maine, while they wait for opening day. 11-year-old Brian is the first customer, and he gets just what he wants, a very rare 1956 baseball card. Cindy Rose is next, a Lalique vase, a perfect match for a living room decor. There is something for everyone, and always at a price you can just about afford. The cash price, that is. Because there is another price. There always is when your heart's most secret desire is for sale. So this is one of my favourite Stephen King books ever. I haven't read it in a few years and I thought revisiting it would be fun, and I wasn't disappointed. It was my third reread and still picked up some things along the way that I'd completely forgotten about. So what I want to start with is the overview. So a mysterious proprietor comes to Castle Rock. Mr. Leland Gaunt opens up a new shop that has the town abuzz with excitement. No one knows what he's selling. It's all very mysterious. The windows are soaked over and it just feeds the town's curiosity. And the funny thing about Castle Rock is the residents are quite reserved, so no one wants to go into the shop first. They just want to wait for someone to go in first before they all flood in. And it doesn't take long for Leland Gaunt to nab his first customer, which is Brian Rusk, the 11-year-old middle school kid, and tempts him with a 1956 baseball card, a card that he has wanted for a long time, and Brian Rusk can't believe the price he pays for it. He pays a small cash price, and all he has to do is play a prank on Wilma Jerzyk, the local Polish lady who is the bully of the town, which I'll go into in a little bit of detail shortly. Now, so the premise is simple. You buy the item you need, you pay a price. And as all the customers come in and buy their needful things, things start to escalate quite quickly because everyone is playing a prank on every other person. So it starts out with Brian Rusk flinging mud at Wilma Jerzyk's sheets. And I've got a favourite quote from the book. It's a descriptive passage, and it's a passage that's resonated with me for years and years, and I'm going to read it to you, so I have notes here so I don't miss anything. So this is where Wilma Jerzyk and Pete, her husband, are out of the house. So Leland Gaunt tells Brian Rusk that no one will be home. He knows everything, and here it is. So Wilma Jerzyk arrives home to her crisp white sheets on the line. They've been blowing in the breeze all day. She's looking forward to the smell of the sheets, bringing them off the line all crisp and clean. Little does she know that Brian Rusk has been there earlier, and here we go with this descriptive passage. She hated that feeling, but she hated that drooling, clammy caress from the dark shape hung on the clothesline even more. Flapping from behind her, a nasty sound like a chuckle from vocal cords choked with dirt. King was in fine form with this book. His writing was superb. It doesn't really fall down anywhere. What I also really enjoyed was the Easter eggs that are in the book. They're fun to find. I'm not going to go too much into Stephen King's multiverse here. There's a lot of references to that, but I think Mike over at Mike's Book Reviews does a really good job at the multiverse Stephen King content. So if you haven't checked out Mike, make sure you do that. Mike's Book Reviews, I've posted the link below. All of these Easter eggs, early on in the book, Brian Rusk is in bed and he looks over at his clock radio and notices the time is 12:04 a.m. So that's an obvious nod to 4 past midnight, his previous book. Another Easter egg was where Ace Merrill, you'll remember him from the being the bully in The Body, another Stephen King short story. He's now middle-aged and becomes Leland Gaunt's assistant, and he has to go up to Boston to grab Leland Gaunt's car, which is turns out to be a Tucker Talisman, which is you might remember the Tucker Turbo from that movie back in the 90s with Jeff Bridges. This one's a different model, and there's one of a kind. It's canary yellow and pretty flash, and Ace is sitting in the car marveling at the interior and taking in the aroma of the vehicle, and he describes that there's a reference to Christine here where he says that's just about the finest smell in the world, except maybe for, you can fill in the blanks if you're a Stephen King fan, but the rest of that isn't for this channel. So there we go. I think the most important thing about this book, and the best thing about this book, is the characters. It's all about the characters, and it's a fairly large cast as well. Now, I think King pulls off characterization better than anyone else. The book is formatted in such a way that all the characters get enough page time without having too much information loaded on you. So you flip back and forth between the characters, and it's really interesting because you don't get bogged down with one person's entire life history. Okay, he dishes it out evenly, so you get little tastes here and there. Then he moves on to another character and what they're doing and what they've done and what their past was like, and then you move on to another one and another one, then back to, say, Alan Pangborn, the sheriff, his past, Polly Chalmers. He goes into quite a bit of detail about these two characters' backstory, and I think that's great because you get a little bit at a time, and you're going back and forth between all these characters, and you're not getting sick of any one character. And as soon as you get really interested in one character's story arc, you go to another character. You can't help reading on because you want to get back to one of your favourite characters. So if you want to find out more about Alan Pangborn, you find yourself flipping the pages and getting through it really quickly to get back to that favourite character's arc. So I think he pulls that off flawlessly. You cannot fault his characterization at all. Another, couple of other characters. Hugh Priest, the public worksman. He is a drunk, and he's just funny. He's funny. He really a line he did in the book made me laugh out loud. It's really funny, and I've got it here. It's one of my favourite quotes. So Brian Rusk is walking home from school one day fantasising about his middle school teacher, Sally Ratcliffe. And Sally Ratcliffe's only in her early 20s, and Brian finds her hot, as, he's an 11-year-old kid, so there you go. But he's walking down the street, and Hugh Priest actually comes along in his car, not paying attention to the road, nearly runs Brian Rusk down, and he pulls up and he looks out the window and says to Brian Rusk, "You want to keep your eyes open," he said, taking a pull from the neck of his bottle and looking at Brian balefully, "because next time I won't bother to stop. I'll just run you down in the road and make you squeak, little buddy." Things like that, it makes me laugh out loud, and it's one of my favourite lines in the book as well. Stephen King captures the fall season very well. He doesn't. He just gives you enough description to put you in the atmosphere and to feel the October breeze and the autumn leaves and all that sort of stuff. He paints the picture just enough without going into too much detail, and I think he pulls it off really well. The setting of the book, the beginning of the book, he actually eased into it because you actually sit on the bandstand in the town square and talk to the narrator. He gives you an overview of what's actually happening. He points out characters in the street and that sort of thing, and hints of what things are to come. So I think it's a really good foreshadowing tool. Another particular standout is Leland Gaunt himself. He's the charming business owner. People fall under his spell, and he preys on their fears, their prejudices, their weaknesses, their greed, their anger. I think one of the important elements of the book is the town already has underlying currents of feuding and hostility, and the people tolerate each other, but there's an undercurrent of things that have the potential to boil to the surface and get out of control, and that's just what Leland Gaunt counts on, because Wilma Jersic and Nettie Cobb, the Baptist lady that killed her husband with a meat fork to the throat, they've been feuding a little bit, but nothing's gotten out of hand. But once they buy their Needful Thing, from Leland Gaunt and play their respective pranks, things elevate and come to a head, and they kill each other in the street, which is just what Leland Gaunt wants. So he does that to a lot of the residents in the town. He crosswires them like fuse boxes, and once he completes the circuit, the whole town goes to shit, basically. So I think Stephen King pulled this off flawlessly. The only thing I'm going to pick on the book for is the ending. It's only a small thing, but it's also annoying. So anyway, the climax of the book, the main street of Castle Rock is in ruins. There's bombs have gone off. There's rioting in the streets between the Baptists and the Catholics. And people fighting each other, killing each other. And when Leland Gaunt comes out and realises he's done with the town, he comes out with his bag of souls, and Alan Pangborn, he pulls out this novelty snake, opens the lid, it jumps up and bites Leland Gaunt on the neck 3 times, and then he takes off in his car, flies up into the air, and the car turns into his wagon that he used to use 1,000 years ago in the Middle East when he was selling his wares, and off he goes. The souls are released from the bag, and the people of the town, in the middle of killing each other, just stop and realise, well, what am I doing? I think the ending is weak. There's no foreshadowing at all of Pangborn. He just goes through the book making patterns on the walls with his hands and silhouette puppets and things like that, and he does little magic tricks and that sort of thing, but don't get to the end of the book and all of a sudden just pull out something unbelievable. So I think that's the only thing I will pick on the book for. Apart from that, it's flawless. It's some of King's best writing ever, and there's a reason it's in my top 5. It was a fun read. And now I'm going to discuss the 1993 movie adaptation, which will be interesting. Add with the movie. This is a list that's a mile long, okay? Where do I begin? I think the biggest problem with the film is its length. Now, the book is a 900-page tome, and a lot of the characters, we get to delve into their backstory. Not so much in this. Being a 90-minute film, you don't really get to know much about the characters. Back in the 90s with this film, I don't think the budget was very big, and it falls flat because of that. Now, I think the biggest gripe I've got with it is that Max von Sydow playing Leland Gaunt, he is just an ordinary man all the way through it. I think you see him disappear into thin air once. Wow. In the book, his eye colour changes. He eats a rat. He flares up, and you see his demonic nature come out multiple times in the book. With this, he's just a man, and the only saving grace is Max von Sydow's performance as the charming Mr. Leland Gaunt. But I think that's the main problem with the film. I don't like a lot of the casting. I don't think it goes into enough detail when people buy their things and what they experience when they take possession of the things. You see, in the book, you see the characters get cast under the spell, and they have an experience, and it makes the product they buy real. For example, Myra Evans, who is one of the characters in the book, gets to take possession of a picture of Elvis Presley, and she fantasizes realistically that she's bonking the king and that sort of thing. You don't really get that in the movie. A funny thing, there's a blooper in the movie if you look really close, when close to the ending of the film, where Danforth Buster Keaton is digging a hole at the back of the church to bury the dynamite so it can blow up. Leland Gaunt comes over to him, and Danforth is having doubts and saying he just wants to die. He holds him up against the wall of the church. Now, it's meant to come across as Leland Gaunt lifting him with one hand and pulling him up and pressing him against the church. But if you look closely at Danforth Keaton's legs, you'll see him step up onto a stool and then up onto the back of the church. So just a little blooper there, but then he keeps digging, and Leland Gaunt says, "You're a disgusting man." I like that in a person, which is a funny line actually. But another major thing that's wrong with the film, and this is to do with the length of it and the budget. There is no Ace Merrill in the movie at all. I think he's an integral part of the book, and he's just completely absent. There's no Tucker Talisman. There's no strong climax at the end. The climax at the end of the movie is pretty lackluster. It just lacks something. So the ending of the film is shit, basically. Leland Gaunt comes out at the end. The Needful Things store blows up with him and Dan Keaton, and amidst the rubble he emerges and gets in his car and leaves. So it's a very weak ending. This film is screaming for a remake. It's been 30 odd years since the 1993 adaptation came out. I think it's high time they do it. I think they'd be able to do it with what Netflix has accomplished in recent years. My wish list would be at least a 10 episode series where the characters can be explored properly, where all the elements from the book can be introduced, and to follow the book faithfully. Have Ace Merrill in it. Have the special effects with Leland Gaunt being demonic. Have a decent cast. I think there's a lot of good actors around at the moment that can actually fill the roles of the residents of Castle Rock. I think if it goes into more detail about the character's backstory, it could be one of the best adaptations of King's work. The ending obviously has to be done properly. The ending of the adaptation from 1993 is shit. It just has to be more true to the book, and I'd like to see the Tucker Talisman in the series. They could get a car and add foam to it and bubble-like body work and that sort of thing to make it look amazing. With what they can do with special effects now is cool. I think it's got the potential to be awesome. I think if Mike Flanagan, who did Gerald's Game, was at the helm with this, add Netflix into the mix with a decent budget, and it is something I would kill to see. So that's my wish list. The episodes would need to be an hour each as well. So bring it on, I say. And nothing on the horizon at the moment, but you never know. With the success that some of Stephen King's recent adaptations have had, I think it will go off its face. I really think it will. So that is my take on Needful Things, the book and the movie. And if you have any thoughts or comments, I'd welcome that. Add them below in the comments. I'd like to know what your feedback was on this video. And next video I'll be making will be my November wrap-up, and I'll be looking at what I'm reading next month, and towards the end of the year I'll be ranking my top 20 reads of 2021. I'll also be going through my reading goals for 2022, which is going to be pretty exciting. And I'm planning episode 2 of the works of Stephen King revisited, and I think I'm going to do... What am I going to do? I think I'm going to do Gerald's Game next. So we'll see how that goes. And thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. See ya.